Welcome to the Raise Your Bars podcast, where it's all about elevating your life one step at a time. With your hosts, Chris Baker and Al Rattan. Together, we're here to guide you through the transformative journey of self-improvement and success. Have you ever wondered what behaviors and actions you need to change to achieve the results and success you desire in life? Well, you're in the right place. Each episode, we dive deep into the strategies, mindset shifts, and practical steps you can take to raise your bars. From personal development to professional growth, Chris and Al share their expertise, experiences, and the occasional tough love, all designed to empower you to reach your full potential. So, whether you're looking to make a big change or simply fine-tune your path to success, grab a seat and let's raise those bars together. Now, let's welcome your hosts, Chris Baker and Al Rattan.
Well, everyone, welcome back to another edition of the Raise Your Bars podcast. I'm here with my good friend, Chris Baker. And Chris, man, you're just getting over a sickness, but I'm glad to see you're up and around and feeling better. Still a little bit of a cough there lingering, eh?
I do. So I'm going to have to keep going on mute every now and again just to,
Sure enough. I'll try and
clear that. Yeah, it's
you're,
good too.
You're the one with all the good stuff, though, so I'll do my best to fill in when Chris is on mute. We're actually coming to an end of our top 10. Our 10 was going to be a 10-part broadcast session. It'll be 9 parts now, but top 10 reasons people fail. And these we pulled from John Maxwell's book, Failing Forward, Turning Mistakes into Stepping Stones for Success. And really, we've always loved John's philosophy on that. You know, it isn't really a failure if we learn from it and grow through it. It may bring a little bit of pain, a little bit of discomfort. It may cost some money. But at the end of the day, if you learn from that mistake, is it really a failure? And I think in a lot of cases, it's not, if you're learning from it, because now you know what not to do and you're able to move forward in a new direction with maybe a renewed sense of purpose. But today we're going to talk about part 8 and 9 today, which is, and number 8, the number 8 reason is relying on talent alone. And then we're going to talk about number 9, a response to poor information. And then we'll wrap up with our next week with our final, with the last session on this series on goals, which we've actually spent a lot of time teaching on goals. In fact, last year we did a 3-month intensive goal getting workshop with a group of people that was very, very good. But let's talk about relying on talent here first, Chris. If I just say talent, relying on talent alone, what's maybe the first thought that crosses your mind on this?
Well, I think to me, when you're looking at, you can look at sports, for example, right? And if you look at like here in America and probably similar in Canada, where you've got like college sport is a big thing, and how many top college prospects who are very, very talented never actually go on to make anything of themselves in the professional world. Right, professional sports world. And one of the reasons there is that they're probably relying on their talent alone, and it's never going to be enough. It's never going to be enough. And you can flick it the other way, right, and look at Tom Brady. Tom Brady was virtually the last draft pick in his year, right? Mm-hmm. Nobody wanted him. He wasn't fancied or anything. And yet when he came into the professional world, he got picked up by the Patriots, and he just worked and learned, got his lucky break when the star quarterback got injured, and then he never looked back from there. Right. Now, if he'd have been relying on his talent alone, it probably would never have even made it into the NFL.
Yeah, exactly. He could have been a vacuum cleaner salesman today. Who knows, right?
Right.
And before I get into reading one of the quotes from the book, I want to talk about the DISC model of human behavior for a little bit, because you and I both are certified human behavior consultants. We both do workshops around the DISC model of human behavior and help teams understand themselves and others for greater effectiveness in the workplace. But one of the things I use in one of my DISC workshops is a study that was done by Harvard Business Review. Now, it's relying on talent alone, before we get into the quotes, which will take us in a different direction, but I want to mention this. And we talk in the training that I do that we talk about our personality quotient, our PQ, how it's one of the most important quotients we need to have in life. And that's our ability to get along with others or relate and get along well with others. And they talked in this study about that 15% of the reason you get a job, keep a job, and move ahead in a job is because of your technical skills and abilities, or you could say your talent in that area, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like your talent in football, for example, right? But on the other hand, 85% of the reason why you keep and move ahead in a job is your ability to get along with others, those people skills. And that was regardless of or across all professions, right? So I don't think we can rely necessarily on our skill set, our talent alone. We also have to be developing all aspects of our self, our personality, and learning to relate, build relationships, be a nice person, right? Be agreeable, be a great teammate, be a great team leader. It's very important that we develop that aspect of ourselves as well, beyond just our talent for whatever we may be good at doing.
Right. I think that you're right. It's a great example, and there's so many components and factors that go into success, right? And backtrack that. There's so many factors that go into significant, sustained success.
I like that.
Right?
Yep.
You can be an overnight success in quote unquote with your talent, but to sustain that and make that significant, there's so much more that you need to do.
Absolutely.
And I think that's where a lot of people will fall down, right? Because they'll if you think about in the sales environment, right? When we bring people into a sales environment and we do sales training, what do we teach them to follow? A process. Right. And it's like you would do this, and it's whatever. I used to have the 7 steps to the sale, whatever it is you've got all of these things, and you say you follow these in order consistently day after day, and you'll be successful.
Right.
And then what happens is they come in and they start doing that and they get that success. Right. And then the other salesmen that have been there a little while say, oh yeah, that's great, but hey, you can cut out that, you can cut this corner or cut that. And so what they try and do is go from like A to D to F to Z, right, without doing the steps in between. And then the level of success starts to come down, and they're like, oh, what's going on? We're getting like our customers are not now interested in what it is. They're tire kickers, time wasters, whatever. No, you're not doing the basics and you're not following it. Your skill and talent alone is not enough. You need to actually follow that process. And that's where, again, I think a lot of people fall down. Whatever field that you're looking at, people will try and cut corners and rely on their talent or their personality or their communication. But it takes a village, And
it's, yeah, absolutely. And I think you're like, you are cheating yourself and others too, by not bringing the best version of yourself to your workplace when you try to cut those corners and cheat. And this actually, this will tie in well then. So one of the quotes from the book that John says is, talent alone isn't enough to take a person through the multiple failures that life brings. I mean, we're all going to hit bumps in the roads.
Right.
Chris and I have had multiple failures in our own lives that we could probably share stories about for hours and hours on end. But again, John talks about talent not enough. He goes, we need to be adding a strong work ethic to talent, because that's like pouring gasoline on the fire. It's explosive. So again, not cheating the system, but following the steps, bringing that strong work ethic to whatever we've put our hand to, in order to add to the existing talent or gifting we bring to the situation, to pour gasoline on the fire, so to speak, to take us to the next level.
It does, and failure is only final when you quit. Right. Until then, it's as as John says, and we've said, it's a learning opportunity and a learning experience. And the fact is that when you are growing, when you are ambitious, when you are seeking a goal and looking to stretch, you will fail. Right. And I've said to people in the past before on my teams, when they join the teams, I said, listen, I give you permission to fail. And they said, what do you mean? You want me to fail? I said, if in a way, yes, but I want you to learn from what it is that you're doing and then come back stronger, right? And find the new way. And to be honest, if you are not failing, you're not trying hard enough.
Yeah, fair enough.
Right. Because if you're not failing, what you're doing is you're existing within that comfort zone. Right, and growth does not exist within that comfort zone. Only when you move outside of that comfort zone. So you have to get out there. You have to put yourself out and be vulnerable and fail, but learn from it, right? And then grow from it and get better. A growth curve, on a graph, it may look like it's a nice straight line, right, up. But it's actually like peaks and troughs, right?
Yeah.
As long as your peaks, your next peak is always higher than your previous trough, then you're on an upward trajectory, right? And that's where you're growing.
Here in North America, Chris, we use peaks and valleys. Okay, so.
Thank you for translating, but yeah.
But I think that's again too. So something you said there. Living within that comfort zone and in that box, right? Not taking the chances, the risk. That's where it's important for us to have people around us that are going to challenge us and pull us and stretch us.
Right.
And I think that's why you and I work so well together, is that we always joke around that together we're the perfect human being, because Chris is a DC, so task-oriented individual, and I'm an IS, which people-oriented individuals. You put us together, we're
DISC.
We cover all four quadrants of the DISC personality profile, but you stretch and pull me, and then I'll challenge you on something, and you'll send something, and I'll polish it up, and we work really well together that way.
Well, I think that's again, if we do, and I appreciate that. I also think in business, that's the role of a leader as well, right? A leader is not there to necessarily tell everybody how to do something, but it's to encourage them to think about how should we do this and how can we make this better. And even if you're leading somebody and they're doing something and you look at it and you go, I know that's not going to work. Let them do it. Let it not work, but be there to support them and pick them up, and then work out, help them to work out for themselves why it didn't work and what they can do better. Right. And that's how you're going to grow your team, rather than, somebody that just tells them what to do, doesn't allow or encourage them to think about it. Guess what? You're always going to get what you've always got, and you're never going to grow as a team because you're not stretching and you're not allowing that creative thinking.
I think that's where a lot of business owners get stuck, right? They get stuck because they're trying to micromanage, trying to do it themselves. I mean, I'm a recovering micromanager.
Yeah.
I was a micromanager, and I definitely do my very best to not be today. So let me read one more thing out of the book here. It says, the greater your talent, the more likely you are to lean heavily on it and skip the hard day-to-day work of improving it. So if you improve this negative tendency, you put yourself on a growth plan so that you can make the most of your God-given talents. Yeah. So he's talking about, relying on our talent and not putting in that work we need to put in to grow even further in that talent or that gifting that we have. And I've always been, I think, and you and I think that's why we connected so well back in 2017, is we've always been on this growth journey. Well, not always, but in the last 10 years or so, we've been on this growth journey. With that growth journey that we both took ended up bringing us together as business partners here. But I've had this desire, and if you look over to my left here, it's like bookcases full of books. I have a book on my desk that I'm reading right now by Bob Proctor. It's fantastic. I want to grow and develop and strengthen myself so I can be an even more effective leader, so I could be a more effective partner to come alongside Chris, to be a more effective partner so Chris and I can come along businesses and help them grow their bottom line profits with our BARS method program. if I don't continue to grow and stretch myself, then I'm of no value to you. I'm of no value to the businesses that we work with.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And times change as well, Al, right? So if we may get to a point, and people get to a point and they think they've cracked the code, right? They've got it, they're there, they everything's running smoothly. But the fact is that life doesn't stop at that point, right? And if you stop at that level and you say, hey, I've made it, this is it, you're actually starting to go backwards because everything else is moving ahead of you, right?
Right.
So we should always be looking to move. And we're developing that worksheet at the moment to go with our bars program, and one of the things we say in there is that our statement is that success is a journey and a process. It's not a destination.
Exactly.
Right. And so it should always be that we're on that learning curve. Now maybe that learning curve is not as steep, the more knowledgeable we get, but there should always be an upward trajectory in it, right? We should always be looking to learn and to grow. And I think the other thing that we're sort of going to build into our trainings on that for the companies we work with is that this three-sided, well, all triangles are three-sided, right? But the triangle, which has got work hard, work smart, and be consistent.
Exactly.
And the thing with that is that you need all three of those to be in play, right? Because just working hard on its own is not going to get you sustained success, right?
No.
Working hard consistently day after day is not going to get you sustained success. But you add working smarter into it, right? Understanding what it is you need to do and working on those things that you need to do, and the things that you don't need to do, don't waste time on them.
Right.
That completes the triangle. Right. But if you look at it the other way, if you're just working smart, but you're not consistent and you're not working hard, that's not gonna go. If you work smart and you work hard at it, but you're not consistent, that's not going to work.
Need all
right?
three.
Or if you work smart consistently, but you're not working hard enough, that's not going to work. So you add those all in, right? And whichever one you look at it, whichever one you start with, unless you've got the other two in place, it's not going to work.
You're not going to have that sustained success. You may have that temporary blip, right? Hit that peak.
Yeah.
But you're going to be back in that valley pretty quick again, or trough. Yeah. All right.
Exactly.
Let's I think it's really good stuff so far. I want to just touch on the ninth reason why people fail, and we're going to do, like I said, and then we'll do number 10 next session. But he talks about a response to poor information in here, and I think with this ever-changing world that we live in, and even John said a couple of years ago at Live to Lead that he read in an article that the average college degree is basically invalid within 5 years of graduation because technology, systems, processes, ways of doing things, product lines, everything else is changing so rapidly today that if we're responding to the wrong information or responding to poor information or don't know where to go get the information we need to make the informed right decision, we could run into a lot of problems and actually cause ourselves some pain and some failure. And he says in the book here, he says, as the pace of life and business increases, the difficulty of being able to collect and evaluate information will increase. And thinking this book is written a number of years ago, it's gotten even faster since that time. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on not having as business owners, as leaders, if we don't have the right information, what are some of the dangers or pitfalls to that?
Well, I mean, inconsistency is one thing, right? So I'm just think about it within a team. And this ties in with the discommunication that you mentioned before, right? When if you're a leader of a team, a business owner, whatever it is, and you're communicating to your team information, right, about a new process, about a new system, whatever it is, right? you may give that information in the way that you understand it yourself. But if you don't make sure that everybody on your team has received that information and understands it in the same way, right? They may look like they understand it, and then they go off and do it, right? And then what you find is that one person's doing one thing, another person's doing another thing, another person doing another thing, and they go, well, I thought that's what you said, right? And so what happens then is you've got that inconsistency, right? Now, if you, let's say that's within a team where your clients could talk to any one of the members of your team, right? But they call up one day and they get Al, and Al says, oh yeah, no, this is the way. And then they call up the next day and they get Chris and goes, oh no, that's not the way, this is the way. And then they call up another day and get someone else and they go, oh no, they're both wrong, sorry, this is the way. Who's right and who's wrong? But who's the one that's losing out? Well, your customers are going to get confused. They're going to go, gosh, this company doesn't know what they're doing.
Right.
All right. And you as a business owner are going to lose out. So how do you make sure that information is consistently delivered to everybody in a way they understand it, is up to date, and how do you check that understanding is there, right?
And coming back to DISC, I mean, we even talk about this in the workshops, so I don't want to give too much of it away, but I've done enough workshops with enough companies to know that communication is always the number one thing in the company that there's problems with. Everybody says communication is horrible between this group and that group and this group and the other group and this and there. And it's always comes up. But the problem is then the leaders go, well, we're communicating. We thought we were communicating everything everybody wanted to know, but apparently they want to know more. What specifically do you want to know? I don't know. So you have this constant battle within the organization. But we talk about even the 4 different personality or 4 different temperament types in the DISC. They will all hear the same words, but interpret them differently depending on their personality style, also depending on what's going on in their world that day. And I always use the example. How many people have gotten a text message and read it and been offended by it? And then you talk to the person that sent it, and there was nothing negative in the intention behind the text message.
Everybody, right?
Everybody's happened, right? So again, that's a response to poor information, because we didn't have the full picture of what that person was trying to communicate to us. We had a negative or poor response to that message. And your team is having positive or negative responses to every message you're sending out to them. So you better be careful on how you're sending it, in what way you're communicating it, and the words you're using, the tone. Even those words on a screen, there's a tone behind the email or the text message. There's a tone behind your vocal, your voice tempo and speed of talk and your gestures and your facial expressions. We're all putting out this information every day. Your team is receiving it, and we have to be careful that we're receiving it through the lens which we want to send it.
Exactly. And I think what can happen as well, Al, with that is people, if they perception is reality, right? So they'll hear something, and to them suddenly that's real. And then what is that information can then be passed between team members, right? Or between colleagues, or between whatever companies. And if that information is wrong, then suddenly that bad information is getting out there, but everybody believes it to be true because it's coming from a reliable source, right? And they're not doing that maliciously. It's just their misunderstanding is then being relayed to others, and suddenly then it's like, hey, this whole thing is wrong, right? And that can happen, when you roll out a new system, right? If the training, if the UI testing, if the understanding of it is not clear, it will get confusing. We're going through that in Disney at the moment, in a system we've had rolled out, and different people have got different understandings about what this system does. And I'm not saying anybody's right or wrong, but they're all like making up their own minds now and deciding what it does, or deciding what the process should be. And it's like, well, what's going on, right? And different areas will be told different things from different people within the company, and it's like, okay, this is crazy.
Yep.
Right. So information is critical. And how do you control the delivery of that information, the updating of that information, right? The validity of that information, and make sure it's clear, consistent, and everybody gets the same.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, folks, if you're listening to this, then you need to, talk to Chris or I, have a conversation with us about bringing a DISC model of human behavior workshop to your team. Because I'll tell you, that will solve a lot of the poor communication within your company just by helping you and your team understand themselves and each other. So, Chris, we're going to wrap it up here. We're at 25 minutes almost here already. Yeah. So challenge for today's session. What do we got?
Hey, well, listen, I would say if you're a business owner, I think what we should do, Al, is in the podcast is put the link to that PDF that we created yesterday, that worksheet.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Because I think you need to be looking at yourself and at your business, your team, and saying, do we understand who we are, what we're doing, how the communication is within our team, right? Do we have a process for delivering excellence on a consistent basis? Right. We have a way for you to identify that. And again, if you click the link that we'll put in the podcast below, you'll be able to get that free PDF. And then if you need help, reach out to us.
Sounds great. Excellent. Well, thanks for tuning in, everyone. Again, raiseyourbars.com or raiseyourbars.ca. You can find us, and the link will be below to download that free document for you. See you next time with the number 10 reason why people fail by John Maxwell.
Yeah.
Take care.
Bye for now.
Thank you for tuning in to the Raise Your Bars podcast. If you found value in today's episode, please consider sharing it with your family, friends, and coworkers. We would sincerely appreciate it.